Hello, everybody, on a Friday, 4 p.m. here Eastern Time. How's everybody doing tonight? Hello, Jeff and Caroline. You guys getting sick of seeing me? I've been on almost every day this week. Just unbelievable, guys. Unbelievable. Hi, Jan. We're going to be doing good today. A good friend of mine, and he's been on before. And if you've seen him on the show, and just a fantastic individual. Hello, BC. I want to thank all my YouTube supporters. You guys are the best. I want to thank my Facebook group. Got to thank Judy and Daniel Spino for all their hard work. I want to thank my moderators. We have now BC as a moderator, Daniel, Tammy, Kathy, Judy, and Michelle. And there's the professor in the house. I hope I don't get any regular phone calls because this is early and I have to use the same phone for my home as I do for the podcast. So if something calls in, I'll just click it off. And after we do a little presentation with the stranger I have in the staging area, we'll start taking calls in. So get your questions ready. This guy that I have been on before. He's been on the Curse of Oak Island many times. And I'm very thankful that he has been with me from the beginning when he presented his theories with Christopher Morford on the show. He's a dad. He's a businessman. He's a singer. He's a songwriter. And he's also an Oak Island theorist. Please give him a warm YouTube quest. Welcome to CORJAN MOL. How was that?
That was an epic introduction. Thanks, John.
I think I should be a wrestler announcer. What do you think, Cory?
Well, I'm pretty poor at wrestling, but yeah, knock yourself out. You'll have to knock yourself out.
Yeah, the pay is good, like nothing. I get no pay for anything, so I might as well just do everything for free anyways.
Sounds familiar, but hey, that's a good thing.
Yeah, well, welcome, Corian. Thank you so much for doing this guest appearance. A lot of people are really piping at the bit to talk to you, and thank you for so much to come on.
Okay, thank you so much. Yeah, no, I love doing this, and it's always nice to hear what people have to say and see if I can answer some of their questions and just babble away a bit.
I hear you. Now, can you see the Facebook, YouTube chat?
I
comments?
can.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
And everybody can hear us and see us out there in the internet land. And then we're good to go.
I think so, yeah.
Dot to dot, my buddy dot to dot. Michael Braham says hello, Corian. Everybody else.
Hey, everybody. It's a privilege to be here. It really is.
Unbelievable.
I can tell you one thing, John. You never get used to the attention.
Really?
Yeah, really. Yeah.
You're kind of famous now, aren't you?
That's not what my kids call it.
Right. But with your singing career, I mean, you're noticed a lot more now than before, no?
Well, my music is doing all right, but it doesn't have the impact that it has when you're on national U.S. television.
Mm-hmm.
So the response you get, if you've been on an Oak Island episode with what is it, up to 3 million people watching live, is just unbelievable.
Yeah, it's probably even more with UK and other countries that they don't tell us the numbers, but it's unbelievable.
I think it's approaching 80 million worldwide per season.
80 million, you said?
Yeah.
Oh, lordy.
Yeah, that's a lot of people. And because they cascade the series out across across the globe, starting a little bit later, further away from America.
Yep.
And
And some see like they're only seeing season 8 right now, or they're the beginning of season 9. They're all over the place. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, you get, I'm starting to get recognized on holiday, or when you're in an airplane or something like that. It's it's really it's crazy.
Yeah. I got a deal for you. Are you ready for this one?
Oh God.
On your next concursion, all right.
Mm-hmm.
When you go to the Caribbean, hear me out now. When you go to the Caribbean,
Yeah.
to look for what's that stuff? The oak. Not the oak. Oh, I'm losing it now. What's the guys? Help me. What am I trying to say here? The fiber, the oak fiber.
Oh, the coconut fiber.
Yeah, the oak fiber. When you go to the Caribbean to see where we can find that comparison, you call Johnny up. Say, I need Johnny to come to me. He'll be on the beach with his cooler full of beer and his short shorts. But he says, I got to take him. That's the deal. What do you think, Corey?
I'll say, John, get me coconut. I need fiber.
Coconut fiber. That's it. My brain is shot this week. All righty. Let's see what Jan had to say here. Corey, were you surprised by any of the discoveries in Portugal?
Yeah, I was by a few. Absolutely.
Okay, and I'm telling, let's see here, Judy, my moderator. I keep on telling Judy she's famous too, Corey, and so.
Yeah. Well, we're in good company.
Yep. It's like you're saying, you don't know how many people you reach until you do something like this there.
Yeah.
In your emails and your PMs just blow up 24/7.
It does.
And it's just crazy. And if it helps somebody, that's even a positive. You know what I mean?
Cool. It's cool.
Alrighty. Well, let's see here. Let me do this backwards here with the pictures.
Yeah. So what do you want to do?
We're going to go through a couple of screenshots, guys.
Okay.
And if I see questions coming up on the side, we'll do that. And then towards the end or whatever we get through it, then you can actually talk to Corian. This is what I want to do because the members deserve it. And Corian is great on taking calls from you guys. And I appreciate that, Corian. And this is what I want. The members to actually see what I do and hear what I do and actually be part of the show and actually talk to the cast members. It's just unbelievable.
Okay, I'll try to answer everything. Of course, you have to realize we're still in the season,
right?
And I'll be back on the show Tuesday.
Mm-hmm.
So there is some restrictions to what I can say, but I'll do my best.
And Judy says, "Can you sing your answers?"
Let's not do that.
Oh God, these guys, they're the best. I mean, I got the best there.
Well, you have an army of them now, do you?
Oh God. And we also have a new group I made up. It's just for the Templar sort of end of it, because I don't want the Oak Island group. If it's tied to Oak Island, fine. But if it just keeps on going on to like Templar history and Templar artifacts that has nothing to do with Oak Island, it was sort of choking out on the Oak Island group. So I sort of want to take all that information, if it doesn't pertain to Oak Island, to just be in a Templar group. And that's what I had to make just to get it out of there and put it in there. I don't know.
Makes sense.
Okay, here we go, Corey.
That statement, yeah. I'm trying to find a way to tell you about this without blowing my NDA. Never in a million years had I expected to find a link to Portugal in my research, but I did.
It says it right there. Them 2 lines says it right there, you know?
Yeah, and you might have spotted that these lines didn't come back in the show last Tuesday. And that's because they were from another section. And and what I hope I can still share with you, perhaps, after the season's finished or at a
Mhm.
later stage, is how I how I got to find Portugal, and
Right.
how I specifically found Fonte Arcada,
Mhm.
because there's a story there. It's not coincidence that name came up. And if you look at what that name is, Fonte Arcada, Fountain of Arcadia, I'm sure you'll recognize the links to perhaps the work of Poussin, Shepherds of
Mhm.
Arcadia, Nova Scotia being called Arcadia in 1525 by Giovanni di Verrazzano.
Mhm.
There's a story there.
Okay. Well, like I said, once the season's over, we'll have you back again and go into more detail, what you can say. No problem.
The place is literally called Source of Arcada. Theorist, yeah,
There you
I
go.
guess. I consider myself to be more of a practicalist, but that aside. Yeah, so here's the church. It's a funny story because there's actually two Fonte Arcadas in Portugal. There's one near Porto
Mhm.
on the coast, and there's this one closer to Braga, which is the old capital of Portugal. The other Fonte Arcada claims that they are the Templar place, that they are on the lands that were donated to the Templars in 1126. But I think we conclusively demonstrated that this is actually the place that it's about. So we had some people in Portugal too who were pleasantly surprised that we indicated this place, and found a number of things. That without any shadow of a doubt make this a Templar property. So what you're looking at is the church and the tower that you see on the left here.
Mhm.
Is a later addition. I think that was done in the 19th century.
Mhm.
So the original chapel would just be that stone building
Mhm.
with the rose window, which is a spectacular 12th century church. It's it's very solemn place, very austere, and it was really awesome, awe inspiring.
Very good, Corey. And Daniel says, did you research any old records while in Portugal? Thank you, Corey.
Yes, I did. But there's not a lot of documentation, and the
Hmm.
documentation the archives they're all in Portuguese or Old Portuguese, which is I guess one shade worse.
Hmm.
But for example, there's a little booklet about this church, which was written by a priest, I think, at the end of the 19th century, which I have, which describes the place very well. And to find anything more, you need to go further back, from the time
Hmm.
where you had land deeds and that sort of stuff, because this used to be a Benedictine abbey. So in the back of the church used to be, I mean, you can still see the fragments of two frescoes. I think we had Saint Benedict and Saint Bernard of Clairvaux in the back of the church. Saint Bernard of Clairvaux, of course, being one of the people who was there at the very birth of the Knights Templar.
Oh, my lordy. And Steve says, definitely my favorite theory. Thanks for bringing the storyline to Oak Island. So fascinating, Corey.
Yeah, my absolute pleasure. I was amazed by this place, and for example, if you look at the timing of things, these lands were donated by Queen Teresa in 1126. Now, if you let that sink in for a minute, 1126 is 3 years before even the Council of Troyes, where the Knights Templar were officially acknowledged and recognized by the Holy Roman Church when the Templar rule was published. So this is at the time that the Knights Templar were, if you read the original records, there was 9 of them. They were living on the Temple Mount, on what is today the Al-Aqsa Mosque, the original site of the Temple of Solomon. And during that time, they got this donation in Portugal. That makes this, for sure, the oldest commandery in Portugal, but possibly the oldest commandery in all of Europe, possibly the oldest one outside Israel. So that's pretty awesome, and it screams the question: why? Why, before they were even acknowledged, how? What was the interest of Queen Teresa to give lands to this specific organization at that time in this location? So there's still a lot of research to be done.
Okay, and Jeff says, when and why did you start researching, of all things, the Knights Templar?
A good question, because my research led me there.
It's Oliver.
I always try to. I mean, there's obviously a bit of subjectiveness in everything everyone does, I guess, and I'm sure I'm a little bit guilty of that too. But generally, I really try to be as objective as I can. Always go back to the original sources, and let the research guide me.
Yep. And Jan said, when was the aha moment when you first thought that there was a Portuguese connection to Oak Island?
I can't tell you.
Okay.
I'm not allowed to tell you, but there was a specific moment in my research where it became blatantly obvious that there was a Portuguese connection, and that we needed to look at this church in Fonte Arcata, source of Arcata.
And Daniel says, do you believe it was the Templars, Knights of Christ, or both that were on Oak Island?
That is an extremely, extremely good question. I'm undecided.
Okay.
I think the Order of Christ was there. Possibly the Templars. And that's also because I'm still undecided about Scotland, for example. Did Templars flee to Scotland, or did they flee to Portugal, or to both? I'm convinced they fled to Portugal, Scotland, undecided.
Okay, Corey. And this next slide is?
Yeah. So this was shown, I can show you this because this was shown on the show.
Okay.
So what you see in the back of the church are these arches. And there's the one arch, not in the middle, but slightly to the right of the altar, that has this triangle, which is cool. And which there's no reason why that should be there.
Okay. The old triangle.
The old triangle. Yeah.
This picture here.
Yeah. So this is the east portal. You see that on the show. What you didn't see is if you look to the right of the door, there's a Templar cross there on the wall. So the Templars would use to touch that when they entered the church. And then over the gate, you have this fantastic imagery with the sun to the left, the crescent moon to the right, and then this big round croix paté, they call it, the Templar cross in the middle with the circle and the dot. And there's another dot at the top of the arch there. Yeah, and I knew there's a almost identical cross or I think identical sized over the original gate of the Convent of Christ in Tomar. And these were used to mark Templar commanderies.
Unbelievable. When I first saw the pictures of Portugal, what a beautiful place. I mean, just the buildings stunning. And the colors, Corey, and just a fantastic looking place.
Oh, but it's stunning. It's stunning. And we were lucky today we were filming in this place, because in the morning, and you can see that when the cars arrive on screen, it was really foggy and hazy, and it looked really mysterious, and the weather was really helping us. Right. And then towards the afternoon, The sun came up and the clouds dissolved, and out came this fantastic view. So by the time the drones were up, it was absolutely spectacular views.
Yeah, here I got a mason's mark that sort of almost looks like the same double cross that was found on the wall in the church, that they're also comparing it to the 90-foot stone. Now, what is your determination or idea or opinion when they try to match it to the stone? And I guess we're matching it to the 90-foot stone comparison. Thank you, Corian.
Sure. So the church is full of mason's marks.
Yep.
Not every stone has mason's marks, but very many have, and they go up, on the high walls and on the stone ceiling. It's an awesome sight. So we looked at them, tried to investigate as many as we could. This one here, the cross with the double bars. Could be a cross of Lorraine, but I don't think it is, because the cross of Lorraine, the bottom bar is a little bit wider than the top one, and the one we saw in Fonte Arcada had two equally wide bars. It's the symbol looks the same like what we think the 90-foot stone looked like. That's all I can say. I mean,
right.
These symbols are identical almost. There's no denying it.
Right.
What that means, I can't tell you, John. It's I can't tell you.
I hear you.
What I can tell you is that this was one symbol that we couldn't find a duplicate of in the rest of the church.
Okay.
Where for most of the other symbols, were used quite widely throughout the church.
Right. And here's I'm just a fan of the show, as you know. I'm not a real deep researcher, theorist, or whatever you want to say. But the minute I saw this, in Johnny's brain, it went, did these guys make the symbols on the 90-foot stone in Portugal to go with the treasure? So when they set this whole thing up, when they faced the 90-foot stone face down into a sinkhole, into the money pit or whatever, this was all originated in Portugal. And that's what, as a fan, that I was trying to put together, that said, oh, well, maybe, you know what I mean, Corey?
Yeah, everything's possible, but if in terms of research, it's impossible to conclude.
Right.
I mean, the 90-foot stone, the image that we have was created by someone, from the top of his head, from memory. But suppose the symbols are the same.
Right.
So yeah, possible, but I can't tell anything about the likeliness or anything like that.
Okay, Daniel says, do you think the Templars or Knights of Christ discovered Oak Island, or do you believe they followed somebody else that was there before them to go, either they knew the treasure was there and they wanted to retrieve it for themselves, or what? Thank you, Daniel. Thank you, Corian.
People often ask me why Oak Island, and I think I believe in simple answers. I think the answer is because it was very easy to find. If you look at 18th century maps, there's a famous map by a guy called Montresor, My Treasure, great name for someone that makes maps, but it was really his name, John Montresor. I think 36, 58, somewhere in that region.
Okay.
And if you look at Mahone Bay on that map, so at the time, Mahone Bay was already Mahone Bay. He put a statement on the map, a little line that says, so if you look at Mahone Bay to the top right, so that's the northwest for you guys, I think, you have Aspetogan Hill. And he put a statement there that says, these cliffs are visible from a very long distance.
Okay.
Something like that. And there you have it. So if you take a boat, ask Tony Sampson. So if you take a boat and you sail out, and if you approach back to the coast of Nova Scotia, The first thing you will see is the white hills of Espetogen, and they are the entry gate to Mahone Bay. So you have this white cliff, and behind there is a safe bay with calm waters, not too deep, where you can make your ship safe. 1763, Daniel says. Thanks, Daniel. It's 1763, Montresor map.
Okay. This is Oliver from the Oak Island Research. Just for your information, the Lorraine Cross represents the usual cross plus the INRI board. The Romans' nails on top of the cross, plus the double crossbar.
Yeah.
Oliver, good man. Him and
great
Michael
information.
Brayman, they're fantastic. Him and Dot to Dot.
And he's from Lorraine, he says. Beautiful region. Very cool.
Yeah. Thank you, Oliver. Let's see, BC.
Great info.
Have you found any Templar names or family connection from your research from there?
Not in Portugal. Not in Portugal.
Does Zena's map tie into any of your research? Linda wants to know. Thank you, Linda.
No. Sorry, that was a bit short, but the answer is no.
Yeah. Were the stonemasons high-ranking people?
What a great question.
Yeah, I was like, oh, well.
What a great question. Craftsmen and craftswomen, I guess, were held in high regard.
Yeah.
But, not in the way of the nobility, but the guilds with masons, were well respected and well paid people.
Right. Can you imagine what we're seeing now? That craftsmanship lasted and lasted and lasted.
Absolutely. Yeah, it always amazes me. I do a lot of research in France.
Mm-hmm.
You look at these Gothic cathedrals. There's over 100 of them that were all built around the same time. That were all built from hand hewn stone. And there must have been an unbelievable amount of people that could do this. But if you see, the precision and the love and the skill that these people have applied, it's absolutely stunning.
Yeah.
So the masons, without a shadow of a doubt, were held in high regard. At the same time, they weren't treated like nobility or clergy or something like that.
Yeah.
For as far as I know, I'm not an expert there, but as far as I know.
Right. Michael from Dot to Dot. Do the Azores come into play? Thank you, Michael. There you go, Corian.
They might. I would love to have a look there. So I've been looking at some flights to go out there and check some stuff out. What is certain is that the Azores were discovered by the Portuguese, and they were used by them as sort of a halfway point between Portugal and the New World.
Mm-hmm.
So there might be relevant information there, absolutely, but I haven't looked at it.
Okay, this is Oliver. It's not Oliver. Oliver. I always screw it up. Corian, can you come by Lyon, France? I'll happily walk you around the old churches.
Yeah, with pleasure. I've been all over France in villages, small and cities big. Lyon is one place where I've never been, and I'm ashamed of it because I think it has one of the most beautiful cathedrals in France. I haven't seen it, so I might actually take you up on that. So avec plaisir, Olivier. Merci.
Yep, connect with them. I trust him. Good guy.
Yeah. So send me a message. My French is good enough, and I would love to take you up on that.
Okay, here's Daniel again. Why did King Dennis protect the Templars in Portugal? Did he get something out of it, in your opinion?
Well, they protected him. The Templars were absolutely material in defending and expanding the Kingdom of Portugal. So the Portuguese army was basically run by the Templars. They helped them drive out the Moors, and conquer large parts of northern Africa. So by the time that Philip IV in France issued the arrest warrants, the Templars owned more than a third of all the lands in Portugal. And they were absolutely indispensable. They were, his best friends, and there was no way in the world that he was going to, throw them under the bus.
I hear you. Doug says, have you seen any hooked X's anywhere in your travels?
I have.
And here's Caroline. She thinks
That's
like
one.
me.
That's one. That's not a good answer, Doug. I have seen one, and I knew where it was because I looked at one of Scott Walter's documentaries. One of his documentaries ends in Tomar, in a place called the Church of Santa Maria dos Olivas, Saint Mary of the Olives, and there's a small, like this size, Latin inscription on one of the pillars, and there is a hooked X in that text.
Okay. And
So
Jan,
I went to check that out.
Okay, and Jan asked, were Mason marks secretive, or did only other Masons know whose marks it belonged to?
No, it wasn't. It wasn't really a big deal. I think it's the same way. A clothing brand puts their name on the label. So it wasn't anything secret. I think it was more like an identification, or a token of pride, tagging of a stone. Not something to convey a secret per se.
You're like a brand, like Daniel says.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yep,
Like
an Oliver.
Like a stamp.
Yep.
I'm John, and I made these 15 stones out of these 6,000.
Right. And then Oliver, I have a feeling CORJAN, Michael, and I are going in the same conclusions, though different journeys and axis analyzed. Very good.
Axis is the magic word.
You guys got to get together on that, and who knows what you guys come up with.
Yeah.
All right, next slide. Oh my God, we only went through 5 slides so far. I'm getting so many questions, CORJAN, on this lamb. That's, you got to straighten myself out, and please explain this whole symbolism above the church if you can. Thank you.
If I can, yeah. Well, I've been breaking my head over this. And it didn't start to click for me until I saw another Templar chapel in Salon de Provence in France, which has it looks different in style, but it has the same lamb holding a cross, because that's what this is. This is supposed to be a lamb. Its second leg from the left is bent, and that's the leg that's holding the cross. So what you see there is this a stick or a staff with a cross on top, and this animal is holding that staff with one of his legs. In the description that I have from this church by one of its priests from, as I said, the end of the 19th century, he says it's a lamb, and the horns are just artistic license by the artist that made this, but it is peculiar. This is without any prior knowledge, this looks like a ram, right?
Yeah.
So a grown-up male sheep, and there are also, I think, races of sheep that have or species of sheep that have where the females have horns. But the point is, in the biblical context, it was supposed to be a lamb. So what this might represent is a grown-up Jesus holding a cross or something like that.
And
that's the most informed thing I can say about it.
Okay, and is that the eye that's above the cross?
Oh, the little triangle with the perhaps. Yeah. It didn't look. I've been standing close to this thing. It hasn't caught my eye, but if you perhaps
I tried zooming in, Corian, but every time I zoomed in any more than this, it was just too foggy. You know what I mean?
yeah, you can see me squinching here to
Yeah, I can't.
my screen. It's well spotted, Tanya. Yeah, happy to have a look, and I think I have an old sketch of this thing somewhere too, so perhaps that will tell us something. Well spotted. If it's indeed a triangle, it's hard to conclusively, but pretty cool nonetheless.
Yeah, here's Michael. Do you think the Inquisition caused the Templars to embrace a more Gnostic, what's that mean? Belief system, whatever that means.
Gnostic belief system. No, I don't think so. No, I think it's the other way around. I think the Inquisition came about because the Templars embraced a more Gnostic belief system. So, because the Holy Roman Church would have felt that was a bit further away from them than they liked.
Mm-hmm.
But then in the end, the Pope at the time was very reluctant to go after the Templars, and only did so after Philip IV had applied massive pressure on him. You have to imagine this Pope was in very bad health.
Mm-hmm.
He was in France at the time, and Philip IV was all over him, pressuring him to start persecuting the Templars. So he gave in the end, and much later, he started to regret it and try to reverse the course of history. But by that time, it was too late.
Right. This is Charlotte. Isn't the lamb sometimes associated with the Saint John the Baptist?
I think the lamb is both associated with Christ and John the Baptist, but it's hard to say who is who.
Okay.
Which is a chic version of I don't know.
Okay. We see the lamb with the cross in many Christian churches. We've even seen a seasonal banner with that symbol in our tiny church.
True. It's a very common symbol.
And I'm saying maybe we can get Tanya to get a clearer photo of this since she lives right there. You know what I mean?
Yeah, perhaps.
All right, let's go on to the next one.
But I made a ton of photos, so I'm sure I have something that I can investigate.
Okay, Corey. And this is the four crosses that we've known as, from the show. What can you say about these?
Yeah. When I watched the episode on Tuesday, I heard Joao say, "This is a cross with a thingy on top, with something on top." Yeah, I mean, I could have taken that conclusion. It looks a little bit like an ankh. I don't think it looks too much like the Dom cross. Undecided. If you see it between everything else,
Mm-hmm.
I would say it's a Mason mark.
Mm-hmm. Do you believe any of the charges against the Templars were true?
I think the whole case against the Templars was heavily fabricated.
That's what I agree with you 100% there, Corey.
Yeah. So the rumors were started by four Templars from the Aquitaine region. We have their names, and then it just spread like a wildfire. And if you have a large organization like the Knights Templar, you will always find something which is going wrong.
Mm-hmm.
So were there Templars who had homosexual relations? If there's thousands of them, perhaps some of them were.
Mm-hmm.
but it's hard to see all these other things that were leveled against them being true. There's over 900 depositions. So during the trials, over 900 recordings were made of testimonies of Knights Templar.
Yeah, I saw that somewhere. Some YouTube.
One thing that runs like a red thread through all of these is that they denied Christ. So they denied that he died on the cross, which is extremely interesting, because some of these testimonies were made under torture. And you would often see that they would retract their testimonies after a while, but not this statement. So that's something that deserves a little bit more attention. And also a great many claim that they had to spit on the cross. So there could be something mysterious going on. Another more earthly explanation would be that these Templars were sworn into strict obedience. So since they were all very, very religious and very pious, a proof of obedience to their masters could have been, okay, I tell you now, spit on a cross, which would be a horrible thing for them to do. So they would be, torn between their obedience to the Templar Grand Master and to their religious beliefs and the things they had been taught from the Bible. So it could be something like that as well, but it is absolutely remarkable.
Yep. But BC says the Lamb of God, the three-legged stance, and the horns are enigma. When was that carved? Do we know when that was carved, Corian?
It looks like it's original from the period. So I would say 12th, 13th century.
Okay.
The pit.
Unbelievable.
Watch the show on Tuesday.
Okay, I hear you, but the 9-spiral staircase, the 90-foot deep into tunnels on the bottom. I went crazy. When I first went to Portugal, when it was bringing up, I don't know why I never went to Portugal, on the internet to see these things. But boy, did this make a light bulb go off in my head, Corian.
Yeah, this is something.
Okay, what I want to ask you with the guy that was there, the archaeologist that was there
George.
on these ancient stone roads.
Yeah.
I had a lot of members saying, yeah, they said, or he said, if it was a swampy area or a marsh, they would put bigger stones on the bottom and then layer the stones up to the top.
Yeah.
Now, did he mention anything? I even saw Rick and you guys trying to walk on this stuff. They were walking pretty gingerly, okay?
I walked for 2 miles on this thing.
No,
yeah, I did. This is an incredibly impressive feature. What you couldn't see on the show is the incline. So where it's steepest, it's 24%, which is something like, and it's complete, and you could see it from the drone shots. It's completely straight. So if you would have a cart with treasure on the top of the hill, there would be no way stopping it. So I'm wondering how they really transported stuff on these roads. But it looked fantastic. George is an incredibly knowledgeable guy who restored this road with a team of people. He explained to us that when this was built, it would have been smooth because there would have been a lot of gravel and sand on top. So this would be very walkable. Both for animals and human beings. So
that would have to be repaired, like every time a 3,000-pound ox is dragging something on it, they'd have to repair it every time, or it would stay in place.
Yeah, what he told us is that these roads are still in such a good shape because the people that lived around the road kept repairing them because they really served the purpose. and the Roman road was the invention that fueled the Roman conquest of Europe.
Hmm.
The Romans were so powerful because they could move their armies so quickly, and they could do that because of their roads. So we had this really pristine section, and then further up the hill, there was a section which was in an earlier stage of building, which indeed looked incredibly similar to what we have on Oak Island. Does that mean that it was Portuguese that made the road on Oak Island? No.
No. Yeah.
I mean, you find Roman roads throughout Europe, everywhere. Even
Mhm.
though I think this is one of the best preserved on the continent. But the technology, they use this technology around the Convent of Christ in Tomar. The road leading up to the castle looks exactly the same. Even you have the thing you're missing is the line in the middle. You can see on the Roman road on your picture on the left.
Yeah.
There was always this line in the middle, which is the
Yeah.
highest point of the road, where the water
Okay.
would go left or right and run away from the road. You don't really see that on Oak Island. At the same time, it's much a shorter stretch, so there wouldn't really be a need for drainage of that type, I think. But technology-wise, similar, absolutely
Yeah.
similar.
And
So,
like I told the guys there also that the roads or wharfs or pathways on Oak Island were supported by wood underneath, branches underneath. That was the difference. Did he mention anything of that, or did Doug ask him? Our roads, we got cribbing underneath our roads or wharfs or anything. Was that mentioned at all? If you can say.
no, and I'm not sure that's the case. I think the piece of wood that Ian Spooner got out from under the road,
Yeah.
I don't think that was just a piece of wood which got stuck between the rocks when they were building the road. I don't think that was there to support the stones.
Okay.
And I don't think that was in the methodology. So what this says to me is that it's probably Europeans that made this road. And the native people they didn't or hardly used stone for anything.
Okay. A couple of years ago, I posted this,
Yeah,
and of
I
course,
was interested because they found a number of these cork oak stumps, allegedly cork oak stumps around the Arcadia stone that Chris Morfitt and myself indicated and found on the island.
okay.
Um, Portugal is full of cork oaks, and you see them everywhere.
Yep, and they just said, that's where it comes from. It's the only place it could come from. Like the coconut fiber just doesn't come from Oak Island, but how did it get there? Who knows? It's another venture in
Well,
itself.
there's more places in Europe where you have cork trees. You have them in Spain, parts of Italy. You have them on the Atlantic coast of France, in the south of France.
Hmm.
But the majority comes from Portugal. They had an industry. So yeah, possibility, and you see them all over the place.
Okay. And there's just a picture of that double
Yeah,
cross with the same angle. I says, oh my lordy 40. It's even got to be at an angle like the
yeah,
90-foot stone.
yeah. It looks very similar, but that at the same time, that's all you can say about it.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Now we got to talk about the cross that you were showing, how they elongated the bottom. Go ahead, Corey.
Yeah. Well, I was trying to explain that when the Knights Templar were rebranded to become the Order of Christ in Portugal in 1319,
Mm-hmm.
King Dinis did a couple of clever things. One of them was that where in the original Knights Templar, the Grand Master would always be someone chosen from their midst. And that changed with the Order of Christ. Dinis negotiated with the Pope that the King of Portugal could either appoint or be the Grand Master of the Order of Christ,
Mm-hmm.
which opened up the door for let's say almost the merging of the Royal House of Portugal and the Order of Christ, which in its turn fueled the Age of Discovery. Very significant change to the Templar rule. And the second thing he did, and that it's simple, but for me of an unbelievable beauty, is that he superimposed this white cross on top of the red Templar cross. And what he
Okay.
said here was they were innocent. White is the color of innocence.
Hmm.
And that's the meaning of this this white cross superimposed on the red cross. And what I explained to the team on the town square in Tomar
Mm-hmm.
is that over time, this square cross, I mean, you see them both in Portugal. You see this cross on the right in a square shape or in the elongated shape.
Okay.
And I think I told them that generally the elongated shape is younger than the square shape. So if you see a square cross, it's usually older
Mm-hmm.
than the elongated cross, which we know as a Latin cross. So that's the cross we see in every church around the world that everybody's used to. If you have a cross in your house,
Mm-hmm.
it's 99 out of 100 cases. It's the cross like you see the white cross on the right.
Mm-hmm.
And then Rick made the connotation or the link to Nolan's cross. I think the point he tried to make is that Nolan's cross is not a square cross; it's an elongated cross. Does that tie it straight to Portugal? Yeah, not necessarily.
Mm-hmm. But like I told my members, this episode that we saw last Tuesday with you on it was the most informative. Tie in loose ends together. I mean, we don't have anything physical yet, but the tie-ins was just unbelievable, over the top. Because I've been doing this for 9 years, and we never really had a straight tie-in. I mean, we had a lot of theories, a lot of speculation, but when you actually now getting down to the nitty-gritty to actually tie things in or use things off of Nolan's map and find something actually after you look at the information, that's what I'm about. You know what I mean, CORJAN?
I do, and you'll have to wait for next week and the end of the season. But
Yep.
I'll tell you this about Portugal. The great Portuguese explorers, Caravel, Magellan, Tristan da Cunha, you name them, without any exceptions, they were members of the Order of Christ. They were Knights Templar in everything but name. They were members of the rebranded Knights Templar. They used Templar knowledge. They used Templar funds. And the plans were drawn up in the Templar headquarters in Tomar.
Mm-hmm.
These guys, from very early on, routinely sailed the oceans.
Mm-hmm.
And then, you often hear that, for example, if people discuss a ship in the swamp, oh, it must be a huge galleon, and these ships were, incredibly big, hundreds of people on board. The Portuguese used the Caravel. The first member of the Royal House of Portugal to become the Grand Master of the Order of Christ was Henry the Navigator. He was a son of Elizabeth of Lancaster, the daughter of the King of England. Henry the Navigator was a bit of a technician, and he helped develop the Caravel. Now, the Caravel was a small ship,
Mm-hmm.
Shallow in the water, very flexible, maneuverable, agile, resilient, which could sail huge distances. It could sail against the wind. And you could sail across the ocean with a crew of between 20 and 40, and the Portuguese comfortably did so. They had a number of new navigational instruments developed in the 15th, 16th century that made that they knew with quite a bit of precision where they were.
Mm-hmm.
And without a shadow of a doubt, they... oh, the lights are going out here. One sec.
All right.
Oh, that's when you automate your house. Here we go.
No worries. Take your time.
Sorry about that. So that's to show that this is live.
Yep. Time to go to bed.
Yeah. The computer says go to bed. Sorry, John. Take care of
What happened? Go ahead. Corey.
So I'm completely out of my train of thought now. But I think I was saying, they had these new navigational instruments
Yes.
developed in the 15th and 16th century, and they were comfortable on a boat. You have to imagine at the time, any day you would go out of the gate of your town, there was a huge risk you would be robbed or killed. People didn't live until after 35 or 40 years old, right?
Right.
So to be on a ship with a group of people that you knew, even if it was dangerous on the water and you didn't know completely where you were going, was for many people safer than to be around the country.
Yep. I had Dr. Lee Spence on a couple of weeks ago.
Oh yeah.
And I was very scratching my head, Johnny, about a big galleon that was supposedly maybe if in the swamp, because then we all heard about the depths in the ocean changing, and it was lower and it's higher and it's lower. So I'm saying all this time as a fan that the show, I only get information from the show. I'm thinking, well, can't be a ship in there because of the sea levels. After talking to Dr. Lee Spence, who has been doing treasure hunting on ships and finding things since he was the age of 12, he changed my mind completely. There could be a ship or part of a ship that made it into the swamp if it was 2 islands, if it was a harbor, the sea levels and everything else. So after 9 years, 2 weeks ago, Johnny's mind was changed again.
Yep. Yeah, and then if you without having any evidence, right?
Right, no evidence. Yeah.
But knowing that the Portuguese had these ships that they caught on the coast of Nova Scotia. We know that Labrador was there. Fagundes was, in all probability there. And Mahone Bay was a really easy place to find because of the white cliffs of Espetogen Hill. If you add everything up, then it's really plausible that Portuguese were on Oak Island.
Up in BC. What port did they use out of there, Corey?
They used Porto and Lisbon.
Then you posted this, if you want to talk about this for a couple of seconds.
Oh, sure. Yeah. I made this photo last weekend when I was in Portugal with my son on a private trip and visited the Convent of Christ. This is the signature of John of Castile. And I find it remarkable because this is the gate to the rotunda, so the round chapel, which is at the heart of the Convent of Christ.
Mm-hmm.
Watch television on Tuesday. You're not going to believe what you're seeing. And this signature is remarkable because if you look at the A, that looks a bit like a square and compass.
Yeah.
And he was, if ever there was a master mason, it was John of Castile. He made several buildings that are today on the UNESCO list. And the gate to the rotunda is absolutely stunning, and it's just a cool thought to entertain that perhaps he was just a little bit more than a mason, which he notified his brothers of by using this funny A, which looks a bit like a square and compass.
Okay.
And if he did, it is extremely, extremely early because, Freemasonry isn't supposed to have come into existence until the half the 18th century,
Were
maybe
they
end 17th, 18th.
okay? And Dean says, with the Portuguese by nationality, or did they travel from Portugal, from Jerusalem and Scotland? Thank you, Dean.
I'm not sure I understand that question, but Portugal was a country very early on, and
hmm
the Portuguese were a proud people that traveled from Portugal.
Next slide.
Pentagram.
Hmm.
This is one of the windows in the nave of Santa Maria dos Olivais, where you will find the hooked X. Haven't been there, but well, I've been here on private trips, but yeah, cool. The pentagram is a symbol which is associated with Jerusalem,
hmm
and it's associated with the temple, with the Knights Templar. But never do you see more pentagrams associated with the Knights Templar than in Portugal.
Then this, like I was showing you, is part of the buildings in the Washington, D.C., how they line up.
There's definitely geometry to Washington, D.C. What can I tell you here? People might remember that in season 8, Chris Morfitt and I explained how the Palace of Versailles is aligned with Oak Island.
Yep.
At the time, I think, and we explained on the forums that the alignment of the central axis of Versailles and Nolan's Cross is off by something under a degree, which on the scale is a large distance and basically renders any conclusion useless.
hmm
By now, we know that the alignment is actually perfect. There's a point at Versailles which was the alignment was corrected by Louis XIV. And
Okay.
maybe at some stage we can tell you how they did that.
Okay.
The point is that there's a connection between Washington and Versailles. Because the Washington street plan was designed by Pierre L'Enfant, who was born at Versailles. He was actually born on the same day, in the same month. Not on the same day, but in the same month as Louis XVI, King Louis XVI,
Okay.
who would later be decapitated under the guillotine during the French Revolution. Long story short, if you stand with your back to the US Capitol, you walk east, you basically walk the street plan of Versailles.
Unbelievable. And here's some tunnels in Portugal.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean there's loads of tunnels that were used for loads of things, but I can't really comment.
Okay. Then this place.
Convent of Christ. If you want to spend money on a holiday in Europe, go to Portugal.
Unbelievable. So much
Must
beauty.
see this with your own eyes. It's unbelievable.
Now, what is this building here?
This is the Convent of Christ.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I've worked on 3 continents, been to many, many, many places, but this beats all of them.
And this is the first time you were ever in Portugal?
No, the first time was on a private trip.
Okay.
October last year.
Not ready.
Yeah, this used to be the park, I think, for the Convent of Cristo, where they did all sorts of initiations and stuff like that.
Right.
Amazing.
And part of it around the area, according, is like the 7 hills. They were saying something about the 7 hills, same as here, or same as Jerusalem.
Yeah, I think that's what I said on the show, so I can repeat here.
Right.
Tomar was given to Gualdin Pais, the 4th Grand Master of the Knights Templar in Portugal. He's the one that built the Convento Cristo, the Convent of Christ, at least the medieval castle, which today constitutes, the perimeter of the place. And indeed, Tomar is a place with 7 hills, like Rome,
Okay.
like Jerusalem. So there's a beautiful symbology there.
All right. How much archaeology did you see that's going on in Portugal? A ton?
Not enough, but quite a bit.
Okay.
It's an old country, John. It's an old place, and that's something you can never bring across in a photo or on video. I mean, you can see a bit in the images. The production absolutely knocked it out of the park. The images they made, well, you've seen them on the show last Tuesday. You'll see them again next Tuesday. Are absolutely breathtaking. But then, there's also a certain vibe in the air. There's the smell. There's the sounds. It's quite the experience.
I hear you. Daniel says, do you think the Knights of Christ hid something in Brazil? Brazil?
I have no idea. Never looked at it. I hope so, because I'd love to go there.
And don't forget to take me where now, Corey? And where are you going to take me with the coconut fiber?
I'm not the coconut fiber specialist or guy, so don't hold your breath until I take you to a coconut tree.
Okay.
Yeah, Convent of Christ. You've seen it in the announcement for next week. Yeah, well, what can I say? Breathtaking place.
Yeah, unbelievable.
At the time that the Convent of Christ was built, Gualdin Pais also built a number of other castles.
Mm-hmm.
This is quite close to Tomar in Almirol. I think, if you ask a 5-year-old to draw a castle, this is what you get.
Yep.
Beautiful place, only reachable by boat. There's in the bottom right corner, there's the parking. There's a little boat which sails up and down the river all day, bringing tourists to the castle, and then it's quite a climb to the top, but well worth the effort, and absolutely stunning place.
Never see any kind of traffic. We never see any kind of. I mean, the place looks just absolutely beautiful.
Yeah, it is fantastic, and it's not a very touristy place. I think the Convent of Christ is, I think, one of Portugal's main tourist attractions.
Okay.
And still, it's not very busy. It's not. I mean, I think for the really big publics, Portugal is still to be discovered, and wholeheartedly recommended. Portugal has an incredibly impressive and rich history.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, when I was younger in Europe, Portugal was considered sort of as one of the poorer Mediterranean countries, which does them an unbelievable amount of injustice. So having been there, 5-6 times now, I couldn't put more praise, on the people. The people are the nicest people in the world, always willing to help you, point you somewhere. The architecture is stunning. It's very, very well preserved. I mean, they take care of their buildings very, very, very well. Maybe better than the Italian and the French.
Yeah, it shows.
And it shows, yeah, and they have a history that they themselves are also starting to rediscover. And it's really, really cool to see how proud people are of their heritage.
Yep.
This is the seal of Alfonso I, the king. So it says Alfonsus Rex with the little Templar Cross on top. This is his signature. So kings, high nobility, high clergy used to make monograms to stamp parchments, like we put a signature on a passport or on a contract today.
Okay.
This has raised many an eyebrow, because according to some, so you see the letters, if you look closely, there's a O, and then in the middle there's a cross made up of a P, and then there's the T, U, G, and to cut it short, these are all the letters in Portugal that
Right.
then sort of reconfigured. But King Alfonso created a bit of a mystery by positioning the letter R between the G and the AL. According to some, this says Portugal, Port of the Grail, which is something to think about.
Very, very interesting. And don't forget, members, CORJAN has an Instagram account. Please give him a join there if you can. I got his Instagram account in the presentation of the promo, and also it'll be in this live chat statement on the bottom. He needs some Instagrammers, I guess. I'm not on it. I have no idea what it is.
You make me sound sad.
I don't know.
I need friend. No.
I need a friend.
It's one of these places, just like my Facebook, where
okay.
I post some stuff every now and then, just because I like to share and I like to have the discussion with people around me. And I think that really showed when we were in Portugal with the Oak Island team. True discoveries are always teamwork. No one will solve this thing on his own.
No.
So the power of collaboration. It was Rick Lagina who suggested that Chris Morford and myself started working together. You haven't seen him on TV this year, but Chris and I still work together every day, and we have a number of incredibly cool projects going on that we hope to introduce to you maybe later this year.
Right.
Some really, 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 really cool stuff.
Yep.
So Chris is not out of the picture.
Yep.
And I'm so grateful to Rick Lagina that he introduced us to each other, and then trusted me to go on this trip with him and his nephews and Doug. It is, oh man, it was such a privilege.
Yep, this will be the last question because I want to take some phone calls so you guys talk to Corey. We're into this about an hour and 10 minutes. So this will be the last question. Have you researched Elizabeth of Portugal and the connection to the cult of the Holy Spirit? Thank you, Michael.
I have no comment.
All right. Now, don't forget, I only have one phone line, guys. So you got to keep on trying. Don't leave me voice messages. You just got to keep on trying. When somebody hangs up, just keep on trying if you want to talk to Corian. So when I put the number up,
and thank you all for your questions and stuff.
Turn your volume off so we don't have any feedback on your phone calls, and we'll go from there. Okay, guys? There you go. Talk to Corian yourself. Who's the first to come in? It'll probably be my mother calling me or something.
Your dinner's ready.
Yeah. John, how do you feel today? Hello, it's Judy.
Hi, John. Hi, Corian.
Hey, Judy. How are you?
Anyway, I do have a question. Can you hear me, John?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Oh, okay. Yeah, Corian, I got thinking after watching the show on Tuesday night, would it be possible that after the Templars settled in Jerusalem, and if they did find the Ark of the Covenant and other things, could they have then at that time taken those to Oak Island? And then in the later 1300s, could the Order of Christ have gone and gotten those things?
Yes. Yeah, very well possible. So there's a scenario in which, before or at the time of the arrests, sacred objects were smuggled out of France and maybe to the New World. And then you would have had a group of people in Portugal who knew that some stuff had been smuggled away, and they would know roughly where, but not exactly, which would have been a good reason to search. So,
Okay,
yeah.
I am having trouble understanding Corian, but I will listen again after I hang up. So one more question. Are there Templars and Order of Christ active in Portugal today?
Yes. Yes. Really good question. So the Order of Christ, which was founded in 1319, still exists. So I think it was abolished once with the abolition of the monarchy in Portugal, but then it was reinstated. And even today, the current Portuguese president, the current president of Portugal, is the Grand Master of the Order of Christ, which is basically literally a continuation of the Knights Templar, as founded in 1120. So it's an with some very small exceptions, unbroken line of Grand Masters from the Templars into the Order of Christ through the Portuguese monarchies, now into the presidency of Portugal. Not to be underestimated. Extremely relevant and extremely good question. This is not something, from hundreds of years back. This organization still exists, still has a Grand Master, and he's the president of Portugal.
Judy, could you hear him okay?
No, I can't make him out, John. It's really garbly. I will listen on my iPad afterwards. Does he think that these two orders are interested in Oak Island at all?
Well, they are now.
They are now.
Okay. Thank you so much, Corian. Good to talk to you. And please come back again soon.
Nice to hear you, and sorry for my terrible accent.
Okay,
bye.
Judy.
Bye-bye. Yeah, bye, John.
Bye.
I don't know. I heard her good. I don't know. Next call. See if they can hear you better. There's nothing else I can do. My volume's all the same, and sometimes it's just the people's phones and connections. You know what I mean, Corey?
I could hear her fine. Daniel asks where I'm going to go next. I don't know. Where the research leads me.
Alrighty. Phone lines are open. And it's dot to dot. Hello, Michael.
Hey, John.
You got Corian on the line.
Hey, Corian. Congratulations on Oak Island. This theory of yours is very, very interesting, and it's got my interest.
Okay,
so
thank you.
I want to congratulate you on your research. And my question is the Portugal's alliance with England, they eventually had an alliance with England, I believe in 1397. And I feel that there must have been something that may have happened with perhaps England and Scotland and Portugal in the consolidation of the Knights Templar. What do you think about that?
Very well possible. Very well possible. I've been, and I'm only starting to scratch this, but I know, for example, France and Scotland had the old alliance, so they had a treaty much like NATO today. So they had agreed that if England would attack one of them, they would come to each other's aid. And I'm not sure what the Portuguese treaty was about exactly, but I think it was similar. So yeah.
Michael, did you hear Corian clear, or was he garbled? Did you hear him clear?
Oh, no, it was very garbled, but that's okay. I sort of picked up a little bit of what he said, but I will watch it again when it's done. And my other question was, in my research, I really don't make any historical connections to Oak Island. You know, my research has mostly been on the Zena Halperin map and the geometry that comes out of that. Whether you, I don't know what you think about that, but that's what I've been doing. But one thing that's interesting about what you have found that sort of was from my past research that connected it, and I never thought about the connection with Portugal before, but it's very interesting to me that I find that, you know, at the time of the 1300s or the early 1300s, when the Inquisition was at its end and basically the Templars were being persecuted through that means of the Inquisition, a lot of those people went into Spain and eventually ended up in Portugal. Do you really think that perhaps some of the Templars and even the Knights Hospitaller became more Gnostic in their belief system, being disillusioned by the church and the feudalism within the country at the time? And I was just wondering if you saw that, because the geometry that I'm seeing coming out of my research all ties in with Gnostic kind of geometry and the belief system. And that's where that other question came out about Elizabeth of Portugal, because I had read something about her being sort of a spark that led to the movement of the Holy Spirit Church. And I also read that the Holy Spirit Church eventually ended up in the Azores, and that the Knights of Christ were protecting them to make sure that they didn't get, invaded. So they sort of escaped the later Inquisition, which went into Portugal and ended up in the Azores. So what do you think about that? And do you have any comment?
Well, this is something that Chris Morfitt and I are looking into. So the coming of the age of the Holy Spirit, as predicted by what's his name, Joachim of Fiore, the Italian, in the 1250s. Very, very interesting. I think, generally, the Templars had a broader worldview than the Holy Roman Church. They had seen a lot of the world. They had been influenced by the Arab world, and I think they made, how do I put this? They made wider connections between heaven and earth than the Catholic Church made, and to some extent that made them heretics, because it meant they needed to go across, the scripture boundaries that the church had put in place arbitrarily, right? So I don't believe that the events in 1307 made them more Gnostic. I think, but it must have made them more determined in their Gnosticism and in their conviction, that they were perhaps more right than the others. And that's my view. I think they always had a wider interpretation of heaven and earth. I do think geometry plays a very big role, as do alignments. We see some unbelievable alignments very early with unbelievable precision that are, almost impossible to explain, but they're there for everyone to see. I definitely wouldn't dismiss what you're doing, and contrary, I can't wait to hear what you have to say about it. It's very interesting and valid research, in my opinion.
Well, CORJAN, thank you very much, and I really admire your research. Thank you for everything you've done, and good luck with your further expeditions.
Thank you, and reach out anytime, and we can always compare, collaborate. I love working together with people.
Yep. And Michael, I hope it's not garbled on the playback. You know what I'm saying? I don't know how.
It is. It is. I couldn't understand really any of CORJAN's, but I'll watch it again. You know, I want to rewatch it. But
Okay, well, thanks for doing that.
Appreciate
Appreciate it.
I'm
Okay,
very excited about his research too.
Yeah, I don't know why it's coming out garbled because I can hear him fine, but who knows? I have no idea. Internet, who knows?
okay.
But that's okay, John. Thanks for having me. Goodbye, everybody.
Okay, see you soon, Michael.
Take care, man. Okay,
Bye.
I need to move out in a minute, John.
I'm not a tech person, so what I do is I unplug the headphone jack. Otherwise, they can't hear you. I can hear you. The people can hear you. But if I put the headphone jack back in, they can't hear you, the caller, you know what I mean? So I
Okay.
put the headphone jack in when you do your answers to see if that works. So I don't know.
Okay. I need to move out in a minute, John. Apologies.
Alrighty.
Hope you hear that. Did you hear that? You didn't, did you? John?
Hold on. What do we got? Okay, go ahead, Corian.
I was saying I need to move out in a minute. Apologies.
Alrighty. Well, let me get that off. Okay, no problem. Alrighty. Well, Corian, thank you so much for coming on. You're just the best. You're just the best of World of Knowledge. We'll see you Tuesday night again. My members all love you. And it's
Too
just
much.
fantastic that you do this for me all the time. And I always can depend on you, Corian. I thank you so much. If you want to say your goodbyes, and then we can get out of here.
Okay. Well, thank you for giving me time to explain and giving me all your interesting questions. Really, really love this this sort of interaction. It's humbling, and you know, yeah, I'm nobody. I just love historical research and tying the dots together, in the best possible way. So I'm looking as much forward to Tuesday as you guys probably haven't seen it. Of course, I know what we've done, but you never know what they're going to use and how. But people tell me it's going to be a spectacular episode, which should be even better than last week. So I'll just lie awake in anticipation for the next, what is it, 3-4 nights.
Yeah, but
And
you're very special to us, Corian. You're very special to our group, to me, and to the members of my group.
okay.
So,
Okay, well, thank you so much. That means a lot, and let's do this again in the future. And thank you for following what I do. Really appreciate it.
thank you, guys. Remember, follow them on Instagram, and we'll get going. And thank you so much, Corian. Good night now.
Okay, take care. Good
Okay,
night,
bye.
everybody. Bye.
Okay, guys. I don't know what happened to the telephone there, but we'll see once we play it back. I don't know what happened there. We'll try to improve on that. But remember, guys, it was a great, great show today. Don't forget, I'll be on tomorrow night, 9 p.m. Eastern Time. I got exclusive footage of Oak Island taken this Thursday. Have a drink, have a wine, have a mixed drink, have a scotch. It's only about 10 minutes long. I'll be on 9 p.m. Eastern Time tomorrow night, Saturday night, so we can watch the video together. But remember, always go forward. You may get a setback, but just believe in yourself. Believe in your dreams, guys. No matter how old you are, just go for it. You keep smiling, you be kind, for tomorrow is never given with this crazy world we're living in. So stay strong, stay positive. You guys stay safe. Thanks for joining Corian and me. More guests will be coming. We'll see you tomorrow night at 9 p.m. Make sure you have a cocktail, popcorn, whatever you want, cheese and crackers. We'll see you at 9 p.m. tomorrow night, Saturday night, for the exclusive video of the island, Oak Island. I hope you enjoyed the show with me and Corian. It was a great show. I learned more and more and more all the time. Thank you. Take care and bye bye.